Hello everyone and welcome to Zephyr Productions. And Canjam just ended recently, so I went to Canjam itself, and of course what you see on the table now is the things I got from Canjam. This is the Bokeh from ZMF. In fact, let me show you the photos inside first. This is the Limba Wood edition, which is the newest edition here, and they come with the cert. I did notice that the version I had came also with additional suede pads inside. So this is a bit unique. I do not know whether this is the combination. Based on the picture here, it seems not to be. But the version that they got from the show has suede pads. This is the new Limba Wood, and the full price had a 10% discount. So it's actually about 10 to 15% cheaper than buying from the site, because there is no shipping nor additional GST costs. Because if you buy from the site itself, after adding the shipping and the cost, it actually costs significantly more. Okay, this is the Bokeh. And the next thing I got was from 7Hz, and this is the Aurora. This is something that is not in the market yet. They were kind enough to actually sell it to us. We tried it, I and my friend, we tried it and we love it, and we purchased it. And Linso had a 15% off during the show itself, and we got it at a very good price without GST and without shipping charges again. So really good price. Linso gave us like a great deal, and it's like, I think the original launch price should be about 400 USD. I got it like 450 Sing dollars or something. So it's really good price. But that's really it. So now let's talk about my Canjam adventure, because that is more important. So in Canjam, of course, you go there and test headphones and earphones. So this is what I brought. I brought my emblem here. This is the M. The reason I brought this is because sometimes certain devices are better off with current drive, and it always intrigued me whether current drive or voltage drive makes a difference or not. And this is actually a very good voltage M anyway. Then of course I brought my M17. This is the device I use to test almost any earphones and headphones. I mean, if I don't want to take my emblem out, this plugs anything in except for XLR, and I get to try every other device. Just plug in here. If it's nice, I will take a little bit more time, take out my emblem and try it further. And the last device I brought is actually my i5 with my U12T. This is for me to listen for fun, but also to compare, because to me the U12T is kind of the standard to a certain extent. I'll talk about it in another video. And this i5 Go is also to let me try out if the IM works wirelessly, which for some of them it really didn't. I think it's barely working. It's quite interesting. Now with that all out of the way, let's talk about my Canjam. So now we will just see pictures, you will not see me anymore. So in Canjam, I only went for day one, and it started off with going to Project Perfection. So they were actually showcasing mainly final audio and Stax equipment. They also showcased the Lotto equipment and the Mjolnir, something that I tried in the, I would say, as probably the early days, and I would say as Zeppelin had one set. It had some charging issues and I can never audition it. This version, they say, had already fixed it, so now the new Lotto Mjolnir can actually be charged properly and utilized. Well, it doesn't really matter to me. The Mjolnir is actually there to just select songs. It was mainly as a deck to select songs. The important part were the headphones in the event. Now, I've already tried the Final Audio D8000 before, so I shall skip that, and I went straight for the Final Audio D7000, which is the new one. Now, that headphone had a really good clarity and good dynamics. Bass impact was really nice, and I do feel that the texture wasn't really refined to me. While mids were very clear, very easy to comprehend, and the highs were nice and extended, but there was some sibilance to me. Very crisp highs those, and I think for people who just want to have some details, with decent bass and mids, I think the D7000 can actually work out very well. I tried both on my emblem in current drive and voltage drive. I noticed that as usual, emblem does improve it slightly, but not a big deal, and the signature is really as such. Now after the D7000, I actually moved on to try the Stax. Now my friends was testing the portable Stax, so I went to go and try the full Stax X9000 with the T8000 amplifier. Now this was a really good setup. I mean, the environment is really noisy, and I don't think I can give a very fair comparison. I mean, I'm a person who owns the Warwick Bravura. This setup, I think, gives a slight different feel. It like had this airier sound, this more clear, high-oriented, a little bit more on the, I would say, as perceived clarity part of things. And the bass itself, it is there. The impact is relatively good, but it's not like super strong. There was some sub bass also, and for electro stats, I think it sounds pretty good. I mean, the Warwick Bravura was, at least in my impression, slightly better, but that can be an impression because this is a show setup and you on really loud, so you can feel the bass. While in the home setting, you actually on really soft. On the other hand, right? So soundstage is quite big and it is fully open and very comfortable to wear. Personally, if it's just on comfort, the X9000 would have beat the Bravura any day. So that's something, I think the Bravura doesn't really have a very good fit. Now, after this, I went to exchange seats with my friend who went with me, and I went to try the portable Stax, which is the D10 version 2. Now, this is, I believe, very new, and it sounds really good. I mean, the portable version, surprisingly, is something I'm willing to actually move around and utilize. The only problem is that it's open and it doesn't fit very well, so probably not, something that you can use on the train, but, in office, if you just on it in acceptable volume, unless somebody's sitting next to you, they cannot hear what you are hearing anyway, and the sound was really good. I think I'm surprised by it, really surprised by it. The bass may not be the hardest hitting, but everything else was great, very low sibilance, low glare, very nice highs, very good mids, just not much bass. But even then, it has still more bass than most other Stax that I remember, which I'll talk about the next one, Based on what I understand, there should be a band that comes with it, and it will make it a lot easier to wear. Now, the next thing I went on, of course, to try is the, I believe this is not yet released, it's the final stage of testing based on what I heard, and that is the Stax X1, and I use it with the portable amp D10II. The reason is because this is so small and light. I mean, it is like probably half the volume because it's just a little bit smaller in every way, but probably half the volume of the X9000. It's really small, really light, though it may feel a little bit flimsy, but that's probably not a big deal. Now, this is really what I feel is a little bit more Stax-like, where the bass is a lot lighter than even the Earphone or X9000, but it is very nice. The mids and highs were great, very, very clear, very, very detailed, very airy. And the surprising thing is, with all this, still not much sibilance. Sibilance is a problem to me. The moment I hear it, I feel irritated by it, even in small quantities. So this doesn't have. It's a very smooth thing, and if you are into female vocals, especially J-pop, anime songs, this is totally for you. Obviously, this is a smaller headphone, and this is not supposed to be compared with the X9000, so don't think that you can get X9000 at a fraction of a price. It doesn't really happen. Soundstage is smaller, things are a little bit weaker, but if you are looking for electrostat experience just without the bass itself, this is actually a good try. Really, really good try. I mean, if the bass could be a bit more, it would have been better. Now, there's only one problem with this headphone, at least the version that I tried out, is that if you move your head fast enough, you'll feel like the air is actually pushing the diaphragm and fighting again, and there's distortion. So whoop, 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 the kind of sound. It's a really weird sound, but it happens for that. Now, after this, I move on to try out something. So, actually, I went to go and play the gacha. They had a gacha. Now, you can see this is a box of ear tips. The gacha, I should have took a picture, but the gacha allow you to just roll, and you get either a box of 10 tips you can choose, or you can get the chance to win some earphones. And they had A3000s, A4000s, Project M, and I forgot something else, but there were like 5 or 6 sets of earphone in a box of gacha. I think there is like 50 or 100 gachas inside. Mainly, of course, is with the tips, but you can gacha other things, and it's just $10. And they are final audio tips, which is pretty decent. So it was a fun experience. I had fun playing it. So after, of course, playing with the tips, I went to actually listen to the earphones from Final Audio itself. Now, normally I don't try IEMs that much because it's just not my cup of tea most of the time. But since it's Canjam and Canjam Singapore is filled with them, I should go and try it out. So I actually went to try the Final Audio A8000. This is the metal one. Now, this is a little heavy, this A8000, and it's also very cold to touch. It does fit very nicely, so no issues there. I've been now some of the China IEMs are also following these full metal designs that give weight and heft, though I don't really think it's necessary. I mean, sound quality is the most important here. Now, the thing about this one is that when I tried it, it didn't really give me the sound I'm expecting from a high-end IEM. It feels very radio-like sound. You know, owning a radio or Walkman in the past with very analogish sound, this is how it sounds like to me. Now, once again, IEMs are tricky things. Different people hear different things because we skip the outer ears and what's not. I think that the A8000 probably is not for me, either for my ear or maybe, you know, it's something of a special tuning and some people may love it. Now, I went to try the little brother, which is the A3000. Oh, that firstly is, I believe, made of some composite plastic. It's light, really light. And the sound was really much more enjoyable to me. Less of this radio-like effect. Very good clarity and, you know, generally a pleasant signature. Now, the bass is probably a little bit weak for a modern day IEM. I mean, these days, a lot of the IEMs are really strong, like the U12T IEMs. I mean, the bass is really strong. The reason why I brought my U12T is really for this kind of comparison. But I think it gives a decent listening experience. The mids are really pleasant, not fatiguing. And overall, I think the sound signature was pretty decent. Now, IEMs are something of a personal preference. You should go and try it out before, you know, you commit to it. I mean, there are like tier lists online, but in the end of the day, you should try it out because some of these lists are very biased to certain experiences, such as very heavy bass or really recessed mids. So take it with a pinch of salt for those things. Now, then I went to try out this Singaporean brand in the same room, and that is the Kotori Audio. Now, I didn't take the picture for the Vampire. I don't know why, but let me show you a photo from their website. So I tried actually the Kotori Vampire first. Now, this one is a little bit bassy to me, a very bloated sounding. So probably something that I wouldn't really enjoy as much, even though it looks really cool. The price is not really high. I mean, this Kotori Audio is trying to sell in the sub 200 Sing dollars region. But it is a very, I would say, it's unique tuning to me. Very, very big bass and lower mids. So probably not my cup of tea. Then I went to try the other one, which is the Dauntless, which is the opposite spectrum. Now, this is a very treble focused IEM. Very high in clarity. Surprisingly, not very sibilant, even though it's high in clarity, high in treble energy. But I think the overall treble energy is a bit too much for me, and I think I will get fatigued listening it over a period of time. For people who like analytical sound, who wants clarity, who wants to hear the details, I think if you don't want to pay too much, this is something you can consider. I'm not into it, but you know, personal preference again. Now, the one that I'm into it for the Kotori Audio was the Zephyr. It was the in-between between the Vampire and the Dauntless. Now, it's a little low on bass, especially compared to modern IEMs. But if you are into listening female vocals, something to try if you are into that genre of music. So then I move off to, I think, SLT. I think that is the room for SLT. Now, they were carrying the RAAL, which is the Imanis, and the Magna, and they also were carrying the Centrons series of equipment. Now, the first thing I tried was the RAAL Imanis. This is the 1995 RAAL, I believe. This Imanis is the high-end version with triple ribbon drivers, and then it was running off the Centrons mini tube amps, as you can see in the photos behind. I have to honestly say it sounds fantastic. It's like great. It is like the previous CA1A, but with more body and a thicker mids and nicer bass, smoother spectrum. Overall, I think more balanced. I can't really comment too much on like the 3D-ness. I think that's what the RAAL guys were saying. But because, you know, the environment is not the best, I think that the sound was large, the soundstage was big. It is definitely not any smaller than what I remember from the CA1A. Whether is it 3D or not, I think I have to get a set to try. Now, the important part of the Imanis or the Magna, which is the other little brother, I'll show you photos of that later, is that the Imanis and the Magna both uses significantly less power. According to people from RAAL, they require only 1/4 of the power, and actually verify it with my M17. Now, the CA1A will distort and overload the M17, while the Imanis and the Magna could play at very loud volumes in trade show kind of setting where people are talking around, and it doesn't get overloaded. So it's definitely using less power, and it is definitely enjoyable. Now I went on to try the RAAL Magna. Now the RAAL Magna felt a little bit more like the CA1A. It is a bit more in the cooler side of sound, the more analytical side of sound. To me, at least, according to the guys, they're saying that this was neutrally tuned. I can't believe them because it's probably good enough bass, good enough mids, good enough treble. But compared to the previous one, was like, oh, the Imanis were like smooth, big, and really enjoyable and thick. This one wasn't that, so it was a little bit thinner in the body and a little bit more, I would say, trebly. There was a little bit of sibilance that was totally absent in the Imanis itself. In fact, the treble on the Magna, at least with especially the RAAL requisite amplifier, I forgot what's the model, it does have some sibilance, which I'm not used to. CA1A, I remember, it doesn't have it either. So this is a little bit more not my cup of tea, I guess. And I prefer the Imanis really because it feels more right, more correct, a little more enjoyable, a little smoother. Now, the pricing wise, both of them are really, really new, and based on what I asked, they were like 13,000 and 9,000 Sing dollars respectively, the Imanis and the Magna. Now, moving on, I wanted to try something that I couldn't get my hands on, purely because in Singapore, day to day, Zeppelin do not carry the Subtonic Storm on hand for demo. But for this Canjam, there were 3 sets. So I managed to get just to sit down and try it. And this was a thing before lunch. So I went to go and try out the Subtonic Storm, running it some music. I ran it directly off my M17. Now, I think, how do I explain? I mean, this is a very expensive IEM. It has an open sound, very, very clear, neutral sounding. Bass was very good texture and punchy. But I think the quantity of the bass itself is not a lot. I mean, it's not like U12T that high, but it does rattle your head if you on it loud enough. Highs are very nice and smooth, surprisingly low in fatigue. I think if you're looking at IEMs, there are more exciting IEMs. Subtonic Storm just isn't the class of exciting. It feels like in the class of this is the right way, to listen to the sound. And when I compare to the U12T, which I have on hand, as I said earlier, the U12T has this excitement and this dynamism, especially in the bass to the highs kind of feel, while the Subtonic Storm just feels right. And if I was to compare, I would say as the U12T is like a very classic modern IEM kind of punchy sound, while the Subtonic Storm is more aligned to some of the high-end headphones type of sound, which is big, wide, smooth, enjoyable, open, neutral, yet not overwhelming in most other frequencies. So that is really what I feel about Subtonic Storm. Now, whether is it worth to pay 8,000 or not, I think this is something that you can consider yourself. Now, I tried to run the Subtonic Storm off the Emblem. It does sound okay. Based on what I remember, the current drive do make it a little bit more thicker in the body. I think I prefer it just, vanilla drive, voltage drive. Now, I also tried using the Subtonic Storm on the i5 Go port because I love to convert my IEMs to wireless. And I bought the i5 Go port because it has a lot more power than the other brands that I tried so far. So with the i5 Go port, the Subtonic Storm at max volume is just nice for me to listen as an IEM. Now, this is probably not good because I know that I'm listening at quite a low level. I usually listen to my music at 70 plus dB, in the lower 75 types. So some people who listen to 80 dBs, definitely not for you. It's probably not possible to run the Subtonic Storm through a wireless adapter. The Subtonic Storm does require significantly more power than other IEMs because when I was using my Emblem, the Subtonic Storm requires I think 2 or 3 clicks more turn. If you think of it as a dial with 12 directions, you need 2 to 3 more turns than the U12T. So definitely not for everyone, especially in terms of power requirements. You probably need an amp to run the Subtonic Storm, or a very big, beefy DEP like a M17, which kind of defeats the purpose of a portable device. Next, I went to try the ZMF, the two that were not on sale now, the ZMF Caldera Close and the Bokeh Open. Now, on general, I think the Caldera Close has to be driven off a direct voltage drive. I tried to drive it with current, even though this is like a planar. It has some weird frequency response that, you know, if you're running on current drive, the impedance response for the Caldera will be very weird. I mean, it'll be like bloated, snuffling sound, not enjoyable at all. I mean, this was the same impression I had with the Caldera Open. I mean, on general, the Caldera probably don't work very well with the emblem in current mode. Now, in voltage mode, it sounds perfectly good. M17, it is, I'll say, as more balanced, the signature. The bass, I feel, is a little bit lacking. I think, this is like show condition, so you do play quite loud, but I still feel like the bass, the impact is good, but the quantity, not there. The overall amount of bass is quite low to me. Now, the mids and highs are well standard. Clarity is good. Not the best I heard out of planar. I think the planar such as Abyss headphones just feel like, they maybe got a bit more clarity. I'm not too sure on that. Maybe it's because it's a closed back version. There was a little sibilance, but overall no big thing to complain about. Clarity was good. Highs were just nice for me. That being said, I think I prefer the Caldera Open because Caldera Close had really this close-in feeling, which doesn't sit quite well with me for this kind of price point and for a planar headphone. Now, then there is the ZMF Bokeh Open. Now, this is something that I would say as it does run on the emblem, both in current and voltage mode. In the current mode, it has this elevated mids. Doesn't sound sibilant with very good impact, but lacks in quantity still. The vocals were nice, smooth, light, extended, and overall I think it's a very enjoyable sound. Now, with the voltage mode, I'm using off the M17, it is a little bit more balanced, a bit more neutral. Bass quantity is on the low side, it's not as warm and bodied. I feel compared to the Bokeh Close, I prefer the Bokeh Close because it has this like warm and body to the sound, which I think the Open kind of loses it in the open nature. I'm not too sure, maybe this show condition, I didn't like compare it side by side. It's based on what I remember of the Bokeh Close. Tonality wise, the Bokeh Open is like neutral sounding, balanced sound, but nothing too special on it. I think it needs a little bit more bass, and that's my thought process. With that, I finished my morning on the second floor rooms. So I went to try, after lunch, I went to try and see the IEMs and headphones on level 1. So the first thing I went to is to go for Thieaudio, and I tried the Monarch 2 and the Monarch 3. Now, both of them are carried by Lin, so there was a good discount, 15%. Once again, no shipping and no GST. At least I don't see the GST receiving on the spot. So the price was really good. I mean, the Monarch 3 was like, I think, $1,189. Brand new set. If you have to buy online, that will cost you $1,400 or $1,500. So the discount plus the lack of shipping and tax really helps a lot. Now, that being said, Monarch 2 was highly recommended by many people. Clinical himself loves it. But it's very bass heavy. It feels like a variation plus. A variation that is better in sound stage, better in clarity. But it is enjoyable. I have to say the truth, it is enjoyable, just really too bassy for me. There was also a touch of sibilance, but I think overall, the whole signature was great, just a bit too bassy. And that is where the Monarch 3 came in. The Monarch 3 had like this area sound that is more enjoyable to me, and it has a slightly more open sound too. The soundstage just feels like a little bit more open to me. And the next thing is that the bass is slightly lowered but more controlled, and I do like it. In fact, I personally think the Monarch 3 is better than the Monarch 2 for me, and if I was to buy a Thieaudio, I would buy the Monarch 2 and not the Monarch 3. Now, with that, I went on to hear the other headphones, which is a Dunu prototype headphones. I'm not too sure what is the model. It was a pleasant experience overall. Even though it's like the main hall is really noisy, this is an open headphone, it has a very neutral sound, and there was a slight emphasis on the treble. Overall, there is a lot of details with the elevated treble, but with it comes sibilance and a little bit bright. So for people who are not into that kind of brightness and sibilance, probably not for you. But everything else was pretty fine. So I walked around and also went to try Aroma Audio's Fei Wan, and this is the newer IEM. I think this is the newer design compared to the Jewel. Now, this is very punchy, very clean bass, very extended in the treble, but there was some slight emphasis there also. Powerful sounding overall, and it is, I would say, better than the Subtonic Storm to me. At least I think that this tuning was a bit more special, more unique, and more enjoyable to listen. But then again, it may cause a little bit more fatigue. So as I said, the Subtonic Storm feels right. It feels like a big open right. While this one feels like there's some difference, like some a little bit more treble, a little bit more bass. Depends on the personal preference again. Both of them cost very similar. But if I want to choose one to listen occasionally, maybe the Fei Wan. But if I want to choose one to listen every single day for every single music, Subtonic Storm probably is the better one. Now, I went to also try Tanzu's Xuanwu Gate, which is very new. I think it's just launched. Now, this one is pleasant. I'll say it's pleasant. I will put it that way. If you are into the more modern tuning, but you do not want so much bass, and you just want a little bit more treble energy. I mean, modern tuning, I mean, the Harman or the clinical style tuning. Xuanwu Gate just gives a slightly different flavor, which is slightly lesser bass and slightly more treble. It's slightly different, but it does shift the overall balance of the sound. And I think the Xuanwu Gate may be something that, if you ask me for long-term listening, a little bit more bearable and enjoyable. So this is what I feel about the Xuanwu Gate. Now, this is where I talk about the 7Hz Aurora. So Aurora, not Aura, 7Hz Aurora. So I went to walk around and my friend was at the 7Hz booth. I mean, I heard some of the 7Hz device before, like the Timeless and the 7Hz 02. I in fact own the 02 also. Then they told me that, this is a brand new Aurora. It comes with mini planar, I think two BA, one DD, and one mini planar. I think that's the configuration. So it's a 4-driver system. It is surprisingly nice to listen. How do I put it? If you listen to many of the more modern IEM tunings, they are bass heavy, generally clear, low in sibilance, but still relatively extended in your treble. And the mids, I will put it as slightly further away. That kind of feel. This is how I feel about a lot of the modern IEMs, especially tuned by famous people. And generally acceptable too. Now, the 7Hz Aurora shifts things a little bit. Firstly, it is interesting. It is not warm sounding. It is more like neutral, cool sounding. So if you are into the very anime song, female vocals type, it is really good. That is really for the mids. So not the warmish mids that you get in a lot of like variation style. This is a little bit more cooler and a little bit more brighter. Not much sibilance though. In fact, I cannot hear much sibilance at all. And its treble is quite extended and nice still. Maybe it's the mini planar, because the guys were saying that the mini planar really does give a certain effect that, even though it has a very good treble extension, it doesn't boost that sibilance area, and therefore it sounds better. I don't know. But, that is the sound signature I get. The bass, surprisingly, super punchy, super powerful, but it doesn't like bloat, and still allows the whole IEM to sound in the slightly cooler, slightly brighter kind of sound. I mean, to some people it may be neutral, some people it may be brighter, but to me it's definitely at least cooler than the variation style. So if you think about it, a variation but with I would say as a bass, it doesn't extend so much that it sometimes merges into the mids a little bit more punchy there for the bass, while the mids and highs are a little bit cooler, more extended. Quite interesting sound and a little bit more area. In fact, the sound stations also sound much bigger too. So the Aurora is something that I purchased because it has a significantly different signature from what's in the market, and I enjoy it. Really enjoy it, so I purchased it. And that's about it. That is my Canjam adventure. It's a bit long for this video, but that is day one, and I managed to try this amount of headphones and earphones. The thing about testing earphones and headphones is that it's a long process. I mean, by the time you go to the table, sit down, take out your devices, play 2 to 3 songs, that's 15 minutes already. So in an hour, if you are very targeted and focused, you know what you're going to try, you can maybe try 4 devices, 5 devices an hour. If you are the type that you don't like, I mean, those you don't like, I think within half a song you can close it, so like 2-3 minutes. But even then, I'd say 1 hour trying 5-6 devices is about there. I was there since like 11:30, took a 1 hour lunch in between, so I only had like slightly lesser than 6 hours to 5 hours, 5 to 6 hours to try out. I would say as trying 10-20 devices are kind of the limit. But at least it was fun. I think Canjam was great. Canjam Singapore was really, really nice. The thing about audio is very simple. There is just so many audio devices this year. In recent years, IEMs are like exploding. Without a show like this, where can you try every single thing you want to try? I mean, there are so many devices. When you go to a shop like Zeppelin or AV1 or Jaben, they have a lot of IEMs. But do you know what exactly they are selling? I mean, you can browse, but you don't know which maker they come from, and you probably also don't know what they are until you ask what is this particular model, then they take out and stuff. But you go to a show, they lay out on the table, they will say what is this device, they put a small little label there to say what is it about, what is the tuning like, what is the configuration like. So it gives you a one glance understanding of what's available out there, unlike in the shop. And in the shop, when you ask for recommendations, obviously they recommend you the easiest to sell, the more commonly acceptable ones. In a trade show like this, you get to see everything and try weird configurations or things that you probably will never hear in a local shop or don't even know it exists. So I think Canjam was great. It was great. I mean, if you are into the audio hobby, do try to go to a Canjam, because there are Canjams around the world, and it will open up your horizon for what audio equipments are available. That's about it for today. I hope you enjoyed this short little video, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.